You guys are ready.
Pretty easy trip to Ames coming up with one of the top teams in the conference. How do you try to continue the momentum that you guys have built going against one of the best teams in the league?
Best teams in the country, right? It's just a great opportunity. It's what's great about this league is that there's, like, throughout the course of a conference season, there's so many awesome opportunities to compete. But I think they lost one game in Ames the last 2 years. So one game in a 2-year period in their building, that tells you how good they, and think about all the people that have come in there. So it tells you how good they are. But, I think it's just a great opportunity for our team to go play against one of the best teams in the country and in one of the best environments in the country.
They turned you over 25 times last year.
You trying to remind me, huh?
Well, Jizzle and Dede had 11 between them, but how have they matured, and then how do you prepare for that? Do you go 6, 7 on 5, or what?
Yeah. Well, shoot, I hope they've matured over the last 12. It was probably 12 months ago we played Iowa State, right? It was early February, late January, somewhere in there. So I think it's obvious they've matured to answer that question. And then, I think certainly we'll go through the same process we do to prepare for every game. We'll try to, first off, be ourselves and focus on the things that we do. It always starts with who we are and what we do, and then we'll try to give our guys the best look we can to prepare for how to defend them and also how to play offense against them.
They had a little bit of a rough stretch 2 weeks ago with Momcilovic out. How much of an impact does he make? What is he able to provide that makes them so much better when he's on the floor?
Yeah, do you pronounce it correct?
Momcilovic, yeah.
I always, with great players, any players really, but he's a great player. The worst thing you ever want to do is mispronounce their name because you don't want to be disrespectful. But there's some names in this league that have been hard. The last thing I ever want to do is mess that up. But gosh, the obvious is the way he shoots the basketball, right? He gives them a guy that stretches the floor and creates a lot of space. Those 3 guards they have are terrific. And when you put him out there, there's even more space for those guys to operate and do the things that they do. But it's not just how well he shoots it. He has such a high, shooting pocket. Like the ball's over top of his head. He's got great size as it is. And then he can shoot it off the bounce, and he can put his body on you. And, like last year, he was shooting it so well off his right shoulder, kind of fading back from 15, 16 feet. It was almost an unguardable shot. So, the shooting ability is important, but the way he gets it off and the different ways he can shoot it. And then you can see, like all young players a year ago, he's taken another step and does a lot more on the floor. But he makes them a much different team, for sure.
Jizzle scored 20-plus in 2 games in the NIT last year, and then it's obviously just scored 20-plus in back-to-back just recently. Is there a big difference that you've seen in those kind of sets of performances, just if you could flash back to last tournament?
You mean the last couple of games is what you mean?
Yeah, compared to the 20 points he was able to put up in the tournament last year to close out the season.
Is there a difference in the way it's happening? Yeah, I think he's such a more complete player than he was a year ago. So, to look at a stat line in terms of field goals made, taken, points scored, and go, oh, what's this? It's not the same because he's in a different role. He's been in a much more significant role all year. He's not going to jump up and surprise anybody right now. So he gets guarded differently. And then he's doing so many other things on the floor now. But, in terms of just playing like himself and playing confidently and getting back to the person he's always been within a new role, within a situation where there's more expectation on him. I think that's probably the biggest difference here over the last couple weeks is, he just looks like the old Jizzle within that, role of being the lead guard on the floor all year. that's doing a lot of other stuff for us as well. So it's, kind of figuring out, getting back to who he is while he's still grown up quite a bit over the course of the year.
You mentioned Iowa State's 3 guards. Curtis Jones last year was kind of third in the hierarchy in terms of production. He's really jumped both Lipsey and Gilbert to be the most productive guard offensively this year. What have you seen him doing differently to kind of lead to the uptick in production?
Yeah, I mean, they're all just so aggressive, all of them, right? All 3 of them. They're all extremely aggressive in transition. I think they're playing significantly faster up the floor than they did a year ago. They play with a lot of freedom, the 3 of those guys. And so, to break down, my job's not to analyze their team to that degree. My job's to get our team ready to play their team. So not to not answer your question, Keegan, but from my standpoint, they're all 3 extremely dangerous. It felt that way last year, and then you've seen the improvement, of all of them, really. I mean, they've all improved from a year ago. You asked about which one specific. You asked about Curtis Jones. I mean, he shoots it, he really, really shoots it deep, shoots it off the bounce, and then he's added a little bit more to his game. I think it's fascinating that is he their highest efficiency player statistically, analytically? I think that's what you're talking about, right? Leading scorer, I believe, and he's coming off the bench. I think that's a good lesson for youngsters out there that, it doesn't really matter whether you start or come off the bench or not. I mean, that's on paper, their best offensive player, but that they have a number of great offensive players. It's not my job to figure out who's the best. We got to figure out how to guard all of them.
Your first guy off the bench is more than capable of that. Do you use that as a sales pitch sort of, or motivation? Historically, Cincinnati's had good 6 men. A lot of teams, their best player has been the 6th guy.
Yeah, our I think the who starts and doesn't start, and that's never been something I've been concerned about as a coach, and it's been nice to see our team hasn't been real concerned about that here recently. Like, I give Dan a lot of credit. He hadn't said boo about it, hadn't worried about it. I don't think it's changed his role or the expectations of what happens when he plays. We didn't take Dan out of the starting lineup for any reason. We added Day because we thought Day was our most competitive guy over a couple weeks. It was showing so much leadership, so we wanted to get him into the lineup. It wasn't to take somebody else out, and we've always kind of viewed that we had, we kind of viewed that we had about 7 or 8 guys that we viewed as starters going into the year. So you can't start 7 or 8, but I think the great teams and the good teams have that many guys they view that way. Certainly Iowa State does, when you look at their team. So, we never thought about it that way as coaches. The best teams I've been on have never thought about it that way. And fortunate right now, I don't think this team's thinking about it that way. And I give Dan a ton of credit for the way he's handled kind of a lineup change. He hasn't blinked, but we need starting level, if you want to tag it that way, production from guys that don't just start the game. We need it from our bench as well, and we've gotten some of that here recently, and that's been good for us.
The analytics say the long 2 is, quote unquote, the worst shot in basketball, but you have 2 guys that, when they're going, have really excelled at making that shot. Is there an advantage because that's a shot teams will give up defensively, that you have 2 guys that can kind of just rise up and knock? You've talked about it. You want guys to shoot over the top of the defense like that, and they're both good at it. Yeah, I love the spin here. That's an advantage, yeah. No, I see what you're saying. No, listen, I think the most important thing, it's actually a very good question. The most important thing is that guys are playing to their strengths and playing confidently. I think, we look at all the numbers, maybe not as hard as Keegan does before every press conference, but I'm just kidding. But we look at all the numbers, guys, just like probably in an even more specific way than you guys do. But I think that the magic to analytics isn't just living by it like it's a black and white situation. The magic is to how do you utilize that to help your team, your players, your identity
perform better. It's a tool. It's not a complete extreme one way or the other thing. So maybe I'm going on and on here, but to go back to your point, the most important thing is your players are playing with confidence and playing to their strengths. Jizzle and Day have a lot of confidence in their mid-range games. That's how they probably grew up before we ever even watched them. If they were in their backyard or at the park or in the YMCA, as kids, that was probably their comfort zone, right? And we saw that when we were recruiting them. So the right balance of allowing them to do that without being a bad analytical team, I think, is the art to this whole thing. And I think what we found with both of them last year and this year is they have to have the freedom and confidence of the coaches and their teammates that that's a shot that they can make at a high level, which they both can.
13.
Very good question. And there is some depth to how that's thought about for sure.
13 games into a 20-game mega conference season. How would you assess just the fatigue that's worn in, if there has been any, or the wear and tear overall on the roster?
On our team?
Mm-hmm.
I think our guys, I attribute Mike Rayfeld. I think our guys did a great job preparing throughout the preseason, in the fall, practicing. We're at a point in the year, guys, and I'd say that everybody in the Big 12 is here. You're not going to go out there and practice for 2.5 hours every day. You can't ask these guys to perform 3 times a week, but you're also, driving them down on the practice court. And I don't love that as a coach because I'd like to practice for 7 hours a day and get better. That's one of my favorite parts of coaching. But I say all that because I think we're in good mental and physical health. I think we've done a nice job, our training staff, our coaching staff, of managing that. Our guys are still coming in the mornings, shooting, working out. I think that's a good sign. If they were too tired to do that, that'd be a bad sign. So I don't have any complaints there. And again, I think we've managed time on feet and intensity of practice well without losing our edge. I will say this, and every coach in our league will echo it too. 20 league games after Christmas, it's going to take its toll on the entire league, especially when you factor in all the travel to different time zones. And you can see that across the league. And other leagues may play 20 games, but they don't play 20 play dates. They play a couple before Christmas or what it may be. So I don't think that'll continue after this year because the coaches seem pretty unified in that. It's hard to get a group of coaches to ever agree on anything, but all 20 of the head coaches in this league, I think, agree on that one.
Wes, you're on this win streak. You have been scoring a lot of points. What do you feel like is clicking right now, throughout these past few games with your team?
Yeah, I think they're just playing with confidence. I think they're playing with a free mind. They're not playing with a bunch of stuff dragging them down. I mean that metaphorically here speaking. You can see that they're playing looser, and then they're playing well together. The ball's moving better. There's better pace. There's better offensive execution. So you're generating a higher quality of shot. I think the cutting off the ball has been significantly better to create some more space. So I think there's a lot of factors to it, but the main thing, we have good players, and they're starting to play the way they're capable of playing, and it's not just one a night. We've had multiple guys a night, perform offensively. And shoot, I still don't think we've had a night where our entire team has played, the way that we're capable of and put it all together. And I think that's fun because there's still a lot of basketball left.
Can Connor Hickman come back and help at all? Game shape it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, it's been a tough road for Connor with the foot. I think he played. I thought he was a difference in our game. Now we're going way back, but I thought he was the differentiator in our game against Xavier here at home and somewhere there in the middle of December. And, I think he knew that. He's not the type to say it, but I remember getting a text from him after that game, just how excited he was that he'd never felt like I think it was like, thank you for the opportunity to have that experience tonight. I think it was something, I'm paraphrasing. He knew how well he played and contributed. And then the next day is when he started having the pain in his foot. So it's, like it's been and I don't think he's performed at that level, even in he's tried to push through it, but he wasn't able to perform at any level after that because of the things he's fighting through with his foot, and then, not practicing and throwing him out there and, that type of thing. So I say all that because, he's working through it as hard as anybody can. He's the toughest kid. We've missed him dearly. We've missed his leadership. We've missed his toughness. We've missed his offense and the ability to play both positions in the backcourt. But yeah, I don't have a great expectation for the remainder of this year, but I'm not going to rule anything out.
Two more.
When I looked last night, I think Iowa State's first in the conference in tempo offensively and the slowest defensively. How difficult is that as a coach to pull off playing with that much tempo one way and then being able to stop people on the other end and grind them out in the half court?
Yeah, I had a team years ago that had the same. I've been through it. I've been on that end of it. Generally, that means you got a hell of a defense because I don't think that, like TJ's trying to play that slow defensively. I think his defense is that good that people really struggle to generate a shot early in the clock, in the middle of the clock. And then he's got those guards are really good in transition. They generate a lot of turnovers, but they're running on other stuff this year. So, yeah, that's an interesting dynamic that you don't see often. Like I said, I think there's a team I coached one year that within the league we were in, it was the same. But it generally just speaks to how damn good your defense is and that you're letting your guys play with freedom and pace, which is what it looks like to me when I watch the tape. If they get as active as they're capable of getting after the ball and generating turnovers, there'll be some quicker defensive possessions. But it is hard to get easy baskets against them early in the clock.
Wes, Taman Lipsey's one of the best defensive guards within this conference. What makes him such a unique defender and hard matchup for guys like Jizzle James and Day Thomas?
Hey, he's really good on the ball. First off, he's a good on-ball defender. He's got very, very good defensive instincts, and makes a ton of plays on the ball. Whether there's lots of steals or deflections, and kind of has that feel for where to be on the court. And same thing offensively. It's basketball feel. Generally covers both ends of the court, but he's got that, and it makes him a really, really good defender.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.